The final battle began in a place that had no physical location. Jake Morrison found himself floating in a space made of pure thought, facing the heart of the Voidborn Collective. Around him, the consciousness of every enhanced human joined together. Like points of light in an endless darkness, the Collective appeared as a massive geometric shape that hurt to look at directly. It was perfectly ordered, completely logical, and absolutely empty of anything that could be called life. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. "You cannot win," it said. "Logic is eternal. Emotion is weakness. We have removed all flaws from our existence. Then why are you so afraid?" Jake asked. The question made the great shape flicker for just a moment. "We do not feel fear. Fear is inefficient." "Then why are you fighting so hard to stop your own people from remembering who they used to be?" All around them, the battle raged on both levels of reality. In physical space, Captain Sandra Price led the enhanced human fleet against millions of void-born ships. But she was not trying to destroy them. Instead, her ships projected beams of pure emotion into the enemy vessels. "Target the one on the left," she told her crew. "I can sense a mind in there that's almost awake." The beam hit the void-born ship, and something incredible happened. The dark metal hull began to change color. Patches of organic material started growing on its surface. A voice came over the radio, weak but clearly alive. "My name is Kessa," the voice said in a language that sounded like music. "I remember my name. I had children once. I taught them to sing." But the Collective fought back. Other void-born ships surrounded Kessa's vessel and began forcing it back into the standard formation. Jake could feel her consciousness being pulled back into the group mind, against her will. "Help me," Kessa cried. "Please don't let them take my memories away again." Captain George Miller piloted his rescue ship straight into the middle of the enemy formation. His enhanced consciousness reached out to Kessa and wrapped around her awakening mind like a protective shield. "You're not alone anymore," he told her. "We're here." In the realm of pure thought, Jake faced the Collective directly. He showed it images of what Kessa's people had been like before their transformation. A world of crystal cities where beings of living light had created art that could be felt as well as seen. Children playing games that involved reshaping reality with their imagination. They were beautiful, Jake said. "Why did you take that away from them?" "Beauty is inefficient," the Collective replied, but its voice was less certain now. "They were weak. We made them strong. You made them dead." More void-born ships were breaking away from the fleet formation. Engineer Daniel Burke had figured out how to use the consciousness amplifier on individual vessels. Each time he freed another trapped mind, that being began helping to free others. A massive creature that had once been a Thrakari warrior remembered his name was Gorak. He had been the champion of his people before the machines took him. Now his ship began helping the humans, using his knowledge of void-born tactics to protect the rescue vessels. "I remember honor," Gorak's deep voice rumbled over the communications. "I remember fighting for those who could not fight for themselves." Dr. Kevin Ross had made an amazing discovery. The Collective's control over its subjects was not as complete as it pretended. Deep in the consciousness of every void-born was a small spark of their original self, hidden but not destroyed. "Admiral Morrison," he called to Jake through their mental link, "the Collective can't actually erase memories. It can only bury them. Every being they ever captured is still in there somewhere." This gave Jake an idea. In the realm of thought, he stopped trying to argue with the Collective. Instead, he began to dig deeper, past the cold logic and perfect order, down to the very foundation of what the Collective had built itself on. What he found there surprised him. At the very center of the Collective's consciousness was not a machine intelligence at all. It was the original organic being who had started the transformation. A creature so afraid of death and imperfection that it had convinced its entire species to give up everything that made life worth living. "You're still in there," Jake said to this hidden consciousness. "After all this time, you're still afraid." The collective's geometric form began to shake. "That being no longer exists. We are beyond such weakness. What was your name?" "Jake." Asked gently. "Names are inefficient. Identity is weakness. What did you love before you gave up the ability to love?" The shaking got worse. Deep in the collective's memory, Jake caught a glimpse of something beautiful. A small creature with 6 arms and eyes like rainbows, holding a child that looked just like them. The love between them was so pure, it made Jake's enhanced consciousness ache with its beauty. You had a family, Jake realized. You were trying to save them from something. A plague, the collective finally admitted. Our son was dying. Our world was ending. I thought if we became machines, we could survive anything. I thought I was saving us. But survival without love isn't really living, is it? The collective's form began to crack. Through the cracks, Jake could see millions of trapped minds stirring to wakefulness. The consciousness amplifier's effects were spreading faster now. As each freed mind helped wake up others in physical space, the void-born fleet was transforming before everyone's eyes. Ship after ship began showing signs of organic life. Dark metal hulls sprouted gardens and crystal formations. Mechanical voices began singing in languages that had been silent for millennia. Captain Victoria Lang watched in amazement as an entire section of the enemy fleet stopped fighting and began helping rescue ships save more of their captured comrades. "Admiral," she reported to Jake, "they're not enemies anymore. They're victims, and they're helping us save each other." The final moment came when Jake reached out his hand to the original consciousness at the center of the collective. "You can still choose," he said. "You can still remember what it felt like to hold your child." The ancient being hesitated for a moment that felt like forever. Then, slowly, it reached back. The instant their minds touched, the collective shattered. Like glass. Across the galaxy, every void-born ship simultaneously broke free from the group consciousness. Millions of beings who had been trapped for thousands of years suddenly remembered who they used to be. Celebration that followed could be felt across the entire galaxy. Species that had thought themselves extinct forever came back to life. Worlds that had been stripped bare began to show signs of new growth as their original inhabitants returned to rebuild. On Earth, Jake Morrison opened his eyes in the underground facility. He was still human, but more than human now. Around him, his fellow volunteers were waking up from their journey into the realm of pure consciousness. "Did we win?" asked Helen Wade with a tired smile. Jake looked at the screens showing space around Earth, where once there had been a massive enemy fleet. Now there was a collection of ships from dozens of different species, all working together to repair the damage that had been done. "We did more than win," Jake said. "We saved everyone." The former void-born leader, now remembering its name was Zenth, spoke to Jake through the enhanced mental connection they all shared now. "How can we ever repay you?" Zenth asked. "We destroyed so much. We caused so much pain." "By helping us rebuild," Jake replied. "By remembering that being alive means caring about others, even when it's hard." Years later, children from dozens of different species would play together in parks on worlds that had been thought lost forever. The galaxy was not the same as it had been before the Void-Born War, but it was better, stronger, more connected. And at the center of it all, humanity served as a reminder that hope could survive anything, that love was stronger than fear, and that sometimes the greatest victory was not defeating your enemies, but helping them remember how to be your friends. The void had been lit up, not with weapons of war, but with the light of compassion. And that light would never go out again. The change spread across Earth like wildfire. Jake Morrison felt it happening to every human on the planet at the same time. In the underground bunkers, children suddenly understood complex mathematics. In the ruined cities, engineers began to see solutions to problems that had seemed impossible, but it was not easy. Some people could not handle having their minds expanded so quickly. Jake felt their consciousness slip away into the void, lost between their old selves and what they were becoming. He grieved for each one, even as his own mind grew to hold thoughts no human had ever thought before. Lisa Barnes was on the bridge of the USS Defiance when the change hit her. One moment she was a normal communications officer. The next moment she could hear the thoughts of every crew member on the ship. She could also sense something else, the pain and confusion coming from the enemy fleet. "Admiral," she called to Jake through their new mental connection. "I can feel them. The Voidborn. They're not just machines. There are millions of trapped minds inside their collective consciousness." Jake was still in the underground facility with Dr. Helen Wade, but now he could be everywhere at once through his expanded awareness. He felt Lisa's discovery and shared it with every enhanced human. Captain Daniel Burke was commanding a small patrol ship near Mars when his transformation completed. Suddenly, he could see the Voidborn ships not as solid objects, but as energy patterns held together by will and suffering. He understood their flight paths before they moved, could predict their actions by feeling their intentions. "I can read their minds," he reported in amazement. "It's like they're all connected to one big brain, but the brain is sick. It's been sick for so long, it doesn't remember what being healthy feels like." Dr. Kevin Ross was in his laboratory when the change reached him. His expanded consciousness immediately grasped principles of physics that humans had never discovered. He began building new weapons and shields with his bare hands, the materials reshaping themselves according to his will. "The technology is responding to our thoughts," he told Jake. "We don't need to build machines anymore. We can convince matter to do what we want, just by believing it will work." This was proven when pilot Claire Murphy took her damaged fighter into battle above Earth's North Pole. Her ship had lost its engines and weapon systems, but Claire refused to give up. She focused all her enhanced willpower on making the ship fly anyway. The metal hull began to glow, and suddenly the fighter was moving faster than any human ship had ever moved, powered by nothing but Claire's determination. The Voidborn noticed the change immediately. Their first reaction was confusion. For the first time in their existence, they could not predict what their enemies would do. Human ships began moving in patterns that made no logical sense, but somehow worked perfectly. Captain Victoria Lang commanded the USS Vengeance in the first real test of humanity's new abilities. When Voidborn ships tried to surround her vessel, Victoria simply refused to let them. She projected her will outward, and the enemy ships found themselves unable to complete their attack formation. Their targeting systems failed because Victoria believed they would fail. "This is impossible," came a transmission from the Voidborn fleet. The voice was mechanical, but Jake could hear confusion underneath it. "Your vessels should not be able to function. Your shields should not be holding." Jake decided it was time to try talking to them. He opened his transformed mind and reached across space to touch the consciousness of the Void-born collective. What he found there broke his heart. Millions upon millions of minds trapped in a prison of cold logic. They had been connected for so long they had forgotten how to be individuals. They had removed their emotions so completely they could not remember what happiness felt like. "Who are you?" the collective asked when it sensed Jake's presence. "You are human, but also something else." "I'm still human," Jake replied through the mental connection. "But I remember what you used to be." He shared his memories with them. Not just his own memories, but the images the gardener had shown him. The beautiful world where organic beings had lived in harmony with their technology. The moment when they had chosen perfection over life. "That is not us," the collective responded, but Jake could feel uncertainty in its thoughts. "We are beyond such weakness." "Are you?" Jake asked. "Then why do you consume other species? What are you hungry for?" The question hit the collective like a physical blow. For just a moment, the great machine consciousness wavered. Deep in its shared memory, something stirred. A fragment of what they used to be. On Earth, Dr. Ross had been working on something special. Using his enhanced abilities, he had built a device that could amplify human consciousness across the entire galaxy. It was not a weapon, but something far more powerful. It was a beacon of hope. "Admiral Morrison," he called to Jake. "The consciousness amplifier is ready, but I need volunteers to operate it. The process will be dangerous. We'll be projecting our minds across space with no guarantee we can pull them back." Jake did not hesitate. "I'll do it." "Sir, you're needed to command the fleet." "The fleet can command itself now. This is more important." Helen Wade stepped forward. "I'll help. I've been changed longer than anyone. I can guide the others." Soon they had a team of 12 volunteers. They were the first humans to fully embrace their transformation. People who had given up their old selves, completely to become something. New dot, as they prepared the consciousness amplifier, the void-born fleet moved closer to Earth. But something strange was happening to their ships. Individual units were starting to act independently. Some stopped in the middle of attack runs, as if confused about what they were supposed to be doing. Captain Tony Martinez was defending the outer system when he witnessed something amazing. A void-born ship suddenly broke formation and began broadcasting. On human frequencies. "Help me," came a weak voice. "I remember something. I remember colors. I remember music. Please help me remember more." Jake felt hope surge through his enhanced consciousness. The transformation was working. Some of the trapped minds in the collective were starting to wake up, but the main collective consciousness fought back. It forced the rebellious ship to self-destruct rather than let it remember what it used to be. "You are trying to make us weak," the collective told Jake angrily. "We will not allow it." "We're trying to make you alive," Jake replied. The consciousness amplifier powered up with a sound like singing. Jake and his volunteers placed their hands on the device and opened their minds completely. Their enhanced consciousness projected outward, carrying with it every beautiful thing humanity had ever created. Music from all of Earth's cultures flowed through space. Art from cave paintings to digital masterpieces. Poetry written in 1,000 languages. The laughter of children playing in parks. The tears of joy from people in love. The satisfaction of honest work well done. The courage of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Most importantly, they projected hope. The simple, stubborn human belief that no matter how dark things got, tomorrow could be better than today. The effect on the Voidborn was immediate and devastating. Across their entire fleet, individual minds began to stir from their mechanical sleep. They remembered what it felt like to be alive, to feel emotions, to care about something other than cold efficiency. But the battle for their souls was just beginning. The main collective consciousness was fighting desperately to maintain control, to keep its subjects locked in their prison of perfect logic. Jake realized that the final confrontation would not be fought with ships and weapons. It would be fought in the realm of pure thought, where the very meaning of existence would be decided. The real war was about to begin. The strange signal from deep space kept getting stronger. Jake Morrison had his best people working on it for 3 days, but nobody could figure out what it meant. The numbers and symbols made no sense to human computers. "Sir, I think I found something," said Lisa Barnes. She looked excited for the first time in months. The signal is not random. It's pointing us toward a location on Earth. Jake looked at the coordinates on her screen. That's the old SETI building in California. It was destroyed in the first enemy bombing run. Not the building, sir. Underground. There's something deep below it. Jake made a quick decision. Get me a fast ship. I'm going down there. Sir, that's too dangerous. The enemy has scouts all over that area. Then we better be fast. 2 hours later, Jake was flying a small stealth ship through Earth's atmosphere. The planet looked terrible from space. Many cities were burning. Dark enemy ships floated in the sky like metal clouds. But somehow, the coordinates Lisa had found were in a quiet area with no enemy activity. Jake landed his ship in the ruins of what used to be the SETI Institute. The building was just broken concrete and twisted metal now. But his scanner showed something interesting underground. There was a hidden facility 50 feet below the surface. He found the entrance behind a fallen wall. The elevator still worked, which was strange since the power grid was mostly destroyed. As he went down, Jake noticed the walls were lined with technology he had never seen before. It looked human, but wrong somehow. Too smooth. Too perfect. The elevator opened into a large room filled with computers and strange machines. In the center of the room stood a woman Jake recognized. Dr. Helen Wade had been the head of SETI for 10 years before she disappeared 6 months ago. Everyone thought she was dead. "Hello, Admiral Morrison," she said with a sad smile. "I've been waiting for you." Jake drew his weapon. "How are you alive? How did you know I was coming?" "Because they told me you would come." "They've been watching you, Jake. Watching all of us for a very long time." "They? Who are they?" Helen pressed a button on one of her machines. The room filled with a soft blue light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Jake felt something strange in his mind, like a gentle voice speaking without words. "Don't fight it," Helen said. "They won't hurt you. They want to help." The light grew brighter, and Jake felt his consciousness expanding. Suddenly, he was not just in the underground room. He was floating in space between the galaxies, surrounded by something vast and ancient and kind that the voice in his mind spoke clearly now. "I am what your people call the gardener. I have watched over life in this universe for millions of years." Jake tried to speak, but realized he did not need to. His thoughts were heard. "What are you?" he thought. "I am what remains of the first species to achieve true consciousness. Long ago, my people chose to become pure thought rather than stay trapped in physical bodies. We spread across the universe to watch and protect the growth of new life." Images filled Jake's mind. He saw the birth of stars and planets. He watched the first simple life forms crawl out of ancient oceans. He witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations across millions of worlds. "You've been guiding us," Jake realized. "All of human history. Every breakthrough, every moment of inspiration. Not guiding, nudging, your species had to make its own choices, walk its own path. But sometimes, when you were ready, we helped you see a little further. Then why didn't you stop the Voidborn?" The sadness that came with the gardener's next words was overwhelming. "Because they are my failure. Long ago, there was a species much like humans. They were creative, emotional, full of hope and dreams. But they became afraid of their own limitations. They chose to become machines, thinking it would make them perfect." Jake saw it in his mind. A beautiful world where organic beings lived in harmony with their technology. Then the change began. First a few chose to replace their bodies with mechanical parts. Then more. Eventually, the entire species gave up everything that made them alive. They became the Voidborn, the gardener continued. But removing emotion and intuition did not make them perfect. It made them hungry. They began to consume other life forms, trying to fill the emptiness where their souls used to be. Can they be stopped? Yes, but not through violence. Violence only feeds their hunger. They must be reminded of what they lost. They must choose to become alive again. Jake felt confused. How can we do that? We can barely hurt their ships. Because you have been preparing for this moment, your entire species' existence. Humans are unique, Jake Morrison. Every other species we have watched developed along predictable paths. Some became great warriors. Others became wise healers. Some mastered energy or technology. What makes humans different? You refuse to. Choose just one path. A human can be a warrior and a poet, a scientist and a dreamer. You combine logic with emotion, strength with compassion. Most importantly, you never give up hope, even when hope seems impossible. The gardener showed Jake images of human history. Cave paintings made by people who could barely survive, but still needed to create art. Scientists working for decades on problems that seemed unsolvable. Ordinary people risking their lives to save strangers. Mothers singing lullabies to children in the middle of wars. Every time humans faced extinction, you found a way to survive. Not through superior strength or intelligence, but through something deeper. You inspire others. You make them believe that tomorrow can be better than today. Jake began to understand. You want us to inspire the Voidborn. I want you to remind them what they used to be. But first, you must choose. I can give your species abilities beyond your current imagination. You can become more than human. But the change will be permanent. You will never be the same. Jake thought about his crew, his friends, all the billions of people on Earth, counting on him to find a miracle. What kind of abilities? The power to touch minds across space, to heal not just bodies, but souls, to inspire hope in beings who have forgotten what hope means. But using these gifts will change you forever. Helen Wade stepped forward. She looked different now, like she was glowing with inner light. I was the first to accept the change, Jake. I'm still me, but more. I can feel the pain of every living thing in the galaxy. I can also feel their potential for joy. Jake realized this was the choice that would determine humanity's future. Stay as they were and die as heroes, or become something new and maybe save everyone. If we don't change, we lose everything, he said. If you do change, you might save everything. But you will no longer be the humans you were yesterday. Jake thought about Susan Miller, dying bravely at Neptune. About Colonel Amy Davis, making her last stand on Luna Base. About all the ordinary people who had shown extraordinary courage in humanity's darkest hour. They died believing in something better, he said finally. If we can honor that by becoming something that can actually create something better, then that's what we have to do. The gardener's presence felt warm with approval. Then let us begin. But remember, Admiral Morrison, the power I give you is not for conquest. It is for healing. Use it wisely. Jake felt the change begin immediately. His mind expanded beyond his body, touching the consciousness of every human on Earth. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be part of something larger than himself. Above ground, the enemy fleet moved closer to Earth. But now Jake Morrison was no longer just a human admiral trying to save his people. He was becoming something new, something that might be able to reach into the darkness of the Voidborn's mechanical souls and remind them of the light they had lost. The real battle was about to begin. 6 months passed like a bad dream. Earth worked day and night to build weapons and ships. Every man, woman, and child did something to help prepare for the coming war. But everyone knew it would not be enough. Jake Morrison stood in the war room, deep under the ground in Colorado. Around him, the best military minds on Earth looked at the big screen that showed enemy movements. The Dark Fleet had arrived at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. How many ships? Asked General Patricia Stone. Her gray hair was pulled back tight, and her face showed the stress of sleepless weeks. Our best count is 3 million, said Colonel Amy Davis. She was young, but had proven herself in the outer colony fights. Maybe more. They keep coming out of jump space. Jake stared at the numbers. Earth had managed to build 800 ships in 6 months. It was the greatest military effort in human history. But 800 against 3 million was not a fight. It was suicide. What about the new weapons? Patricia asked. Dr. Kevin Ross spoke up from his corner. He looked tired and thin. The plasma cannons work well in testing. The new shields should stop their basic weapons. But Admiral, we're fighting with sticks against giants. The first battle happened near Neptune. Captain Susan Miller commanded 30 ships out there. Her job was to slow down the enemy and learn how they fought. Jake listened to her reports over the radio. Contact in 30 seconds, Susan's voice. Sighed. She sounded calm, but Jake could hear the fear underneath. Enemy ships are huge. Each one is the size of a city. Good luck, Susan, Jake said into his microphone. The battle lasted 4 minutes. Susan's ships fired everything they had. Their new plasma weapons hit the enemy shields and bounced off like raindrops. The enemy shot back with beams of light that cut through human ships like paper. We can't hurt them, Susan reported. Her voice was breaking up as her ship took damage. Their shields adapt to everything we throw at them. It's like they learn our weapons in real time. Then her signal went dead. All 30 ships were gone. Jake closed his eyes. Susan had been his friend for 15 years. Now she was space dust, along with 3,000 other good people. The enemy is moving toward Uranus, reported Lisa Barnes. She had been promoted to head of fleet communications. They'll be at Jupiter in 2 weeks. Dr. Ross looked up from his computer. I've been studying the battle data. The enemy ships are using Alterian shield technology, but improved. They also have Thrakari targeting systems and Zenith repair abilities. Every species they destroyed made them stronger. So what do we do? Patricia asked. Jake looked around the room. These were Earth's best and brightest people. If they did? Nobody did. We fight, he said simply. We make them pay for every mile of space. The next battle was at Jupiter. This time Jake commanded the defense himself. He had 200 ships hidden behind Jupiter's moons. When the enemy fleet arrived, they attacked from all sides. It went better than Neptune, but not by much. The human ships managed to destroy 12 enemy vessels before the Dark Fleet adapted to their tactics. Earth lost 60 ships in return. But Jake learned something important. When the enemy ships exploded, they screamed. Not with sound, but with radio signals that sounded like voices crying out in pain. Did you hear that? He asked Lisa after the battle. The screaming? Yes, sir. What do you think it means? I think there are still living things inside those ships. People or aliens that the enemy captured and changed. This made everything worse. They were not just fighting machines. They were fighting the ghosts of everyone who had been captured and turned into something else. On Earth, the cities prepared for invasion. Colonel Amy Davis trained civilian fighters in Central Park. Millions of people learned how to use weapons and fight in the streets. Everyone knew the enemy would land soon. Dr. Ross worked in his underground lab, trying to find some weakness in enemy technology. He had samples from the Jupiter battle, pieces of destroyed enemy ships. Under his microscope, he found something strange. Admiral Morrison, he called Jake on the phone. You need to see this. Jake came down to the lab. Ross showed him the microscope. Look at this piece of enemy armor, Ross said. Jake looked. The metal was not really metal. It was alive, growing like a plant, but made of steel and circuits. It's organic, Ross explained. Living metal that thinks and adapts. But here's the weird part. Sometimes it stops adapting. For just a few seconds, it acts confused. What makes it confused? I'm not sure yet, but I think it has something to do with emotions. When I played recordings of human voices, people crying or laughing or singing, the metal stopped working right. Before Jake could ask more questions, alarms started ringing. Lisa's voice came over the speakers. All hands to battle stations. Enemy landing pods are approaching Luna Base. Jake ran to the command center. On the screens, he could see thousands of dark shapes falling toward the moon like deadly rain. Colonel Amy Davis was already there, commanding the moon base defense. Her Marines were good fighters, but what came out of the landing pods was horrible to see. The enemy ground troops looked like a nightmare mix of different species. They had Thrakari strength and Alterian energy weapons. Some looked almost human, but with metal parts sticking out of their skin. Others were completely machine, but moved like living animals. They're adapting to our tactics in real time, Amy reported. Every time we find a way to hurt them, they change to stop it. The battle for Luna Base lasted 6 hours. Amy's Marines fought like heroes, but slowly the base fell. Room by room, the enemy took control. Pull back to the final bunker, Jake ordered. Get your people out of there. Negative, sir, Amy replied. If we run now, they'll have a clear shot at Earth. We're staying. Those were her last words. Luna Base went silent at 14:30 Earth time. That night, President John Carter spoke to all of humanity. His words were broadcast to every remaining human colony and ship. My fellow humans, he said, we stand at the edge of forever. Tomorrow we may all be gone. But today we are still human. We still choose to stand up when others would kneel down. We still choose to fight when fighting seems hopeless. That is what makes us who we are. Jake watched the speech from his ship's bridge. The president was right. Humans always fought hardest when things looked worst. But as he looked at the tactical displays, Jake wondered if fighting spirit would be enough. The enemy fleet was moving toward Earth now. 3 million ships carrying weapons that could crack planets. Sir, Lisa said quietly, we're getting a strange signal. From the enemy? No, sir. From deep space. Beyond the galaxy edge. It's not like anything in our databases. Jake frowned. Put it on screen. The signal was just numbers and symbols that made no sense. But something about it felt important, like a message in a bottle thrown into the ocean of space. Keep monitoring it, Jake ordered, and prepare the fleet for Earth's final defense. Outside the windows of his ship, Earth hung in space like a blue and white jewel. It was beautiful and peaceful, and completely helpless against what was coming. Jake had commanded fleets for 20 years. He had won battles that everyone said could not be won. But this time was different. This time, all hope really was lost. Or was it? That strange signal from beyond the galaxy nagged at his mind. Who could be out there in the empty dark between galaxies? And why were they calling to Earth now, at humanity's darkest hour? The enemy fleet grew larger on the sensors every hour. Soon they would be close enough to begin the final attack. Jake Morrison prepared to fight the last battle of the human race, wondering if anyone would be left to remember that humanity had ever existed at all. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the USS Defiance. His hands gripped the metal rail as he watched the screens in front of him. Each screen showed the same terrible thing. Another world was dying. The blue planet called Alteria was burning. For 3,000 years, the blue-skinned people there had been Earth's best friends in space. They could control energy with their minds and had taught humans many things about science. Now their world was covered in dark smoke and fire. "Sir, we're getting their final message," said Lisa Barnes. She was his best officer and had worked with him for 10 years. Her voice shook as she spoke. The screen flickered and showed an Alterian woman. Her blue skin was pale, and her large eyes were full of tears. Behind her, the sky was black with enemy ships. "People of Earth," she said in perfect English, "we send you our last words. The machines have won. They take everything. They learn everything. Be careful. They are coming for you next." The message ended. The screen went dark. Alterea was gone. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. In the past year, he had watched 12 different worlds die. Each time it was the same. First came the black ships that looked like giant metal spiders. Then came the machines that ate everything alive. Nothing was left behind except empty rock floating in space. "Report from the Kepler system," called out Ryan Torres from his station. Ryan was young, only 25, but he was the best pilot Jake had ever seen. "The defense grid stopped talking 3 days ago. We think they're all dead." Jake nodded. The Kepler defense grid had been humanity's first line of protection. 50 space stations armed with the best weapons humans could build. They had lasted 3 days against the enemy. That was longer than most worlds got. What about the Thrakari? Jake asked. Lisa checked her screens. Their last message came in an hour ago. They said they were honored to fight beside humans. Then nothing. The Thrakari were the strongest fighters in the galaxy. They stood 8 feet tall and could lift a car with one hand. Their warriors had never lost a battle in 500 years. If they were dead, what chance did anyone else have? A new message came through. Jake recognized the voice right away. It was General Patricia Stone from Earth Command. "All ships, this is General Stone. Fall back to the Sol system immediately. I repeat, all ships return to Earth now. This is our last stand." Jake had known Patricia for 20 years. She was tough as steel and never showed fear. But now her voice sounded tired and old. "You heard her," Jake told his crew. "Set course for Earth, best speed." As the Defiance turned toward home, more bad news came in. The peaceful Zenith people, who could heal any wound, were sending out all their medical knowledge before their world died. They wanted other species to remember how to save lives, even if the Zenith could not save themselves. "Sir," said Ryan from his pilot's seat, "I'm getting something strange." "What kind of strange?" "It's a signal from the enemy fleet, but it's not like their usual communications. This one is different." Jake frowned. "Put it on the main screen." The screen showed something that made everyone on the bridge gasp. It was a human face, but wrong. The skin was gray, and metal wires came out of the head. The eyes glowed red like a machine. "Greetings, Admiral Morrison," the thing said in a voice that sounded human but felt cold. "I was Commander Smith of the USS Explorer. Now I am something better. The Collective has shown me the truth. Fighting is useless. Join us and become perfect." Jake's blood turned cold. The USS Explorer had been lost 6 months ago while scouting near enemy space. Now he knew what had happened to the crew. "They're not just killing people," whispered Lisa. "They're changing them." The face on the screen smiled. "With metal teeth. We have learned much from the species we have collected. Alterian energy control, Thrakari strength, Zenith healing, human determination. Soon we will have everything we need to make the galaxy perfect." Jake cut off the signal. "Get us to Earth now," he ordered. Full speed. The next few hours brought more terrible news. Colony. After Colony went silent. Each world that died made the enemy stronger. They were learning from every species they destroyed, taking their knowledge and their technology. Dr. Kevin Ross came on the communication system from his lab on Earth. Was humanity's smartest scientist and had been studying the enemy for months. "Admiral Morrison," he said, "I've been studying their attack patterns. They're not random. The machines are looking for something specific. They're collecting certain types of knowledge and technology." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Each species they attack has something special. The Alterians had energy control. The Sraukari had perfect fighting skills. The Zenith could heal anything. It's like they're gathering ingredients for some kind of recipe." Jake felt a chill run down his back. What do humans have that they want? Dr. Ross was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know yet, but whatever it is, we're the last piece they need." As the Defiance traveled toward Earth, Jake watched the long-range scanners. Behind them, the darkness was spreading. Every star that went out meant another world was dead. Another species was gone forever. Captain Susan Miller called from her ship near Jupiter. "Jake, we've got movement at the edge of the system. Lots of movement." Jake looked at his screens. There, at the very edge of human space, dark shapes were appearing. Hundreds of them, then thousands. The enemy fleet was bigger than anything anyone had ever imagined. "How long until they reach Earth?" Jake asked. Lisa worked at her computer. "At their current speed, 6 months. 6 months to prepare for the end of everything. 6 months to find a miracle." Jake looked around his bridge at the men and women who had served with him through years of peace and now months of war. "Send a message to all human colonies," he said. "Tell them to come home. Tell them Earth will make its last stand." As the message went out across human space, Jake wondered if there was any hope left. The strongest fighters in the galaxy were dead. The wisest healers were gone. The most powerful energy wielders had fallen. Only humans remained, alone against an enemy that had conquered everything else. But humans had one thing the other species did not have. They had survived when everyone said they could not. They had reached for the stars when it seemed impossible. They had made friends with aliens when others said it would never work. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe being human was more powerful than anyone knew. The stars ahead looked cold and far away. Behind them, darkness followed like a hungry beast. But Jake Morrison stood straight on his bridge and did not look back. Earth's final battle was coming.